So my name's Aideen Riley and I am the national contact point for the Innovation Fund for the department here. So today I'm excited to talk to you about the EU Innovation Fund and the crucial role played by the national contact point here in Ireland. And we will also have some experts from Europe also presenting later. So this is our agenda this morning. So as I mentioned, DG Climate and Sinead will be on later after my quick introduction. The Q&A will follow, so we'll answer all questions. Please put them in the chat or use Slido. It doesn't matter, we'll get around to them either way, and then we should all be wrapped up by 11:30. Right. So the Environment and Climate Research and Advisory Unit in the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications is the National Contact Point, or NCP, for the Innovation Fund, and is represented on the DG Climate Expert Group. So the NCP, just let you know a bit more about us. So we promote awareness of the fund and give guidance to prospective applicants. Also, as a member of the expert group, the unit engages with the Commission on the development of the fund and associated calls for projects. One of our key responsibilities is to raise awareness about the Innovation Fund, and we achieve this by providing guidance to potential applicants, sharing updates on the fund, and organising information days and events to facilitate knowledge exchange. For any further information or to be added to our mailing list, please email the help desk, and you can see that information, contact information on the slide, and we'll share these afterwards as well. Right, so just to give you a sort of overview of the structure of the Innovation Fund. So the fund can really be broken down to 5 components. So we have the large scale, medium scale, small scale, clean tech and pilot, as well as project development assistance. So the fund is structured to support projects of varying scale. So large scale projects are defined by a total capital expenditure above 100 million. Moving to medium scale projects category, we target endeavours with a total capital expenditure ranging from 20 million to 100. This tier allows for a diverse range of initiatives that contribute significantly to the Innovation Fund's goals. And then really at the heart of the fund are the small scale projects, especially in our case here in Ireland. So this has a total capital expenditure ranging from 2.5 up to 20 million. So these projects, while smaller in scale, they play a crucial role in fostering innovation and sustainability in a more accessible manner. A new aspect of the fund this year is the emphasis on clean tech manufacturing. So this will focus on projects exceeding 2.5 million, specifically targeting the production of components for renewable energy storage, heat pumps, and hydrogen. So this strategic focus propels us towards a cleaner and more efficient energy future. Moving on then to the pilot, the pilot project category. So these are projects with capital expenditure exceeding 2.5 million, strategically concentrating on deep decarbonisation efforts. So pilot projects play a pivotal role in testing and advancing solutions for a sustainable future. Within the Innovation Fund also, there's the Project Development Assistance. So it serves as a crucial support mechanism. It's managed by the European Investment Bank, and PDA is provided to projects that, while meeting certain criteria, are not yet maybe considered mature enough. So this assistance is recommended after a thorough evaluation process, ensuring the development of promising initiatives. Projects recommended for PDA support undergo this evaluation to ensure that they align with the fund's objectives, and the assistance then acts as a cashless, not nurturing these projects so they're more mature and viable if they wish to go and apply again for the other calls. For those eager to participate, just to note, all categories were opened on the 23rd of November 23, and we have a submission deadline for proposals. It's 4 o'clock Irish time on the 9th of April this year, 2024. So who can apply? So the Innovation Fund aims to fund innovation flagship and first-of-kind projects that are not yet bankable but are past the sort of research stage. The fund will focus on highly innovative technologies and big flagship projects that can add value and bring about significant emission reductions. The projects need to be sufficiently mature from a technical perspective, an economic perspective, and a legal perspective. So both private and public bodies may apply, and there's no minimum number needed, but consortiums are indeed welcome. And then, of course, getting to the point that everyone's interested in money and how much is available. So it's estimated up to 40 billion euro will be available and invest up to 2030. The Innovation Fund will fund new and innovative technology that delivers the avoidance of greenhouse gas emissions, and the fund will support up to 60% of costs. You'll see there on the slide how the funding has been broken down between the different calls. And those are just some links for everyone. As I mentioned at the beginning, we'll be sharing these slides afterwards, as well as a recording after Innovation Day. And please use Slido or chat with any questions you may have, and we'll get to answering those after all the presentations. And on that note, I'll just stop sharing my screen. I would like to introduce now our panel of experts from SENEA. First up is Evelina. So Evelina Daniel has been for over 2 years part of the Innovation Fund team in the European Commission, Director General for Climate Action. She's been working on the design of the regular calls for proposals, the pilot auction, and also use of the Innovation Fund in financial instruments. Previously, she was team leader for modelling and economic analysis in the European Commission, Director General for Energy, working on analysis underpinning the 2030 and 2050 EU climate and energy targets. She started her career in the Commission's Director General for Internal Market, working on economic analysis for the automotive industry even. She has a master's degree in economics from Poland and in political science from France. So I welcome now Evelina with your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this introduction. Thank you very much for organizing the event and inviting us. It's a big pleasure to be at least virtually with you today. Very happy to see interest from Irish projects in the Innovation Fund calls for proposals. Yes, I see that our presentation is ready. We have something like 1 hour. We will try to keep it lively and give you as many good insights as possible. But of course, we also had the full day info day last year already. We will refer to that for the full information available on the currently open call for proposals. So yes, let's start with this presentation. Let's keep it going, and then we will be also answering the questions that you may have having listened to us. Okay, we can go to the next slide already. So we have for you a bit of introduction, of course, about the Innovation Fund. And the policy background to this funding instrument. Then the main chunk of our presentation will be about the Innovation Fund 2023 Net Zero Technologies call for proposals for what we call regular grants. And then we will also briefly talk about the Innovation Fund 2023 pilot auction, which also provides grants, but the competition is organized as an auction. Then we have a couple of important information, and then our presentation also has the backup slides that I'm afraid we won't be having time to show you today, but you will have it as a part of a deck that will be distributed after the event. So yes, we can go to the introduction and the policy update. So the next slide, please, and already the next one, explaining the EU Innovation Fund. It is one among some 40 funding instruments that we have on the EU level, but we like to think that it is quite special because it's a new one, and it is not financed by the general budget of the EU. It is financed from the revenue from the carbon market, so the auctioning of part, of course, of allowances for the GHG emissions, and with part of allowances earmarked for the innovation fund. And assuming certain price of this allowances, we assume here as 75 euros on average in the current decade. We have a budget of something like 40 billion euros for the current decade. So it's a big budget. It enables big ticket grants. This is also what makes this funding instrument quite special. We can provide the funding either through regular calls for proposals, so multi-criteria analysis, so to say, several award criteria that have to be claimed, or we are experimenting as of this year through the auctions. So competition mostly on price and other aspects pass as qualifications criteria. So doing that in a way as already many countries do, say for the renewable power, for the ancillary services in the power markets. So going through the auctions, which is administratively much leaner and also easier for the applicants. What we plan to achieve with spending, and whichever the way, the regular grants or the auctions, in the end, it is a grant which is provided. What do we hope to achieve with those grants? Of course, avoiding the emissions, because those projects have to demonstrate abatement of the GHG emissions. But we also want to boost competitiveness. We actually don't count only on the emissions abatement realized by the projects that we award, but we also hope that those projects are, so to say, the trailblazers. They inspire others, they demonstrate the business case of advanced decarbonization technologies, and then other market players can pick up on those technologies, on those solutions, and implement them. When you think about the broad eligibility of the Innovation Fund, yes, it is very broad because it captures all the sectors which are covered now by the emission trading system. So you know that previously it used to be energy intensive industries and power generation only. And sort of by extension, we also considered energy storage, carbon capture and use and storage, of course, renewables, well, obviously for the power generation. Now with the revision of the emission trading system, we also have mobility and buildings. With this, almost everything fits in the eligibility of the Innovation Fund. We can go to the next slide. And importantly, we don't only look at the deployment of energy storage, renewables, electrolyzers. We also consider manufacturing of final products or components to be eligible. Innovation Fund, being big, being financed from the carbon market, of course, is in the spotlight of the policy making on the EU level. And it does respond to the political priorities. You might recall from the last year, actually from already 2002, the Repower EU Action Plan. So it was all about replacing Russian gas imports with the renewables and with the renewable hydrogen. That was a big priority, 2022-23, it continues to be so. And then Innovation Fund had a dedicated topic on hydrogen, and we also started to gear the first pilot auction to be about renewable hydrogen. Likewise, from the last year, 2003, Net Zero Industry Act, so the EU response, if you like, to the IRA in the US, this was the big push for us to focus even more on the clean tech manufacturing. It was always eligible, but we created a dedicated topic for that. And then for the first time in the last year's call and in this call, we doubled the budget available to this topic. Then there was announcement of the European Hydrogen Bank, sort of cementing all those actions on the renewable hydrogen. Most recently, end of last year, we had the wind package. Here already, Innovation Fund is pretty well deployed for this technology, but we did increase, we did provide some extra rules, for example, priority in the project development assistance for the projects in the wind sector. So these are recent only political priorities, and we see what comes in the next years. But important to say is that we try to have this bottom-up approach, excellence-based. So looking at the projects without really making allocations specifically to the sectors, but looking bottom up on the excellence and identifying the best projects across the board. And even if we choose political priority, look hydrogen, clean tech manufacturing, it is a very broad one. We can go to the next slide, please. And then you have a bit of a history of the Innovation Fund. Like I said, it's a young instrument, but our first call was already in the 2020. And by now we had 3 large-scale calls, 3 small-scale calls. And then we revised this approach last year, launching 1 big Innovation Fund call. It was already explained before me, addressing all of them, small, medium, and large-scale projects. So we get them all together, and we are also having a pilot auction. With all these previous calls, we have already over 6 billion euros committed to low carbon projects. Remember, our total budget, something like 40 billion. So definitely more work for us, more exciting opportunities for the projects to come. And then we can go to the next slide, please. Yes, which is showing you a bit the portfolio that we have so far under the Innovation Fund. Important to say, we are in a bit of a long game, knowing that very often we target big, I could even say huge industrial projects about the decarbonization. So we have already 104, so to say, ongoing projects. So they are signed already, they have signed a grant agreement with us, but only 21 of them reached the financial close, our proxy for final investment decision, with all the conditions in the financial agreements fulfilled also, and only 5 have reached the entry into operation. Well, this is obvious when we think projects like CCS or electrolyzers, or doing something in chemicals, or even large-scale renewable deployment of innovative technologies. Obviously, it takes time. Already permitting, it's good part of it, and then comes the construction. So yes, we only have 5 projects already operating. When they all happen, those that we have already signed the grant agreements with, we have almost 500 million tons of CO2 abatement. From my previous job, I know that figures of this size are pretty abstract. So this is equivalent of emissions in the ETS sectors of Belgium over the past decade. So this is huge already. And then, like I said, we also want that those projects inspire others, so more follow in the implementation of the same technologies. When you look at the sectors, clearly hydrogen is the thing. That's of course also a result of the hydrogen topic that we had last year. We don't yet, of course, have here the results of the pilot auction. Then cement and lime, mostly with CCS, I must say. Manufacturing of components, so it does show that there is a need for European projects to get this kind of support, in a way those that they also get in the US and also in other countries. And then it is more, it is quite an equal spread among other sectors. We don't seem to have that many projects, pulp and paper, geothermal energy, but we hope that over time it will develop. We can go to the next slide. So here already I said that we have already projects in 24 countries. Ireland is one of them, with 2 projects already signed. We clearly have some countries which are front runners. All of them are also bigger countries, so obviously it will be a bit different if we have done it, if we did some ratio per projects per capita. And we also see that call after call, this what we call the geographical balance, is sort of improving. So with the first call, budget was smaller. Large scale call, we had 7 projects awarded, a bit concentrated in the Western Europe. Now the second call came already with 16 projects awarded. We redressed this balance. Third large scale call, there was something like 7 member states that got the large scale project for the first time on their territory. So year after year, this is improving, and we sort of consider that ideally with time, with this bottom-up excellence-based approach, the balance should get established. If not, of course, we have tools to look into improving this geographical balance. We can go to the next slide, please. which is yes, I already announced how does it look like for Ireland. So for the moment, 2 projects, very interesting ones, both of them. We have something 44 million euros of EU contribution, and remember, of course, those projects will be much bigger in the size of the investment. Alexandre will explain you how we do our cost calculation and how we award grant in function of the cost declared. And then, of course, a sizable emission abatement. And we can go to the next slide. You have a bit of details about those projects. So one is about the aluminium sector and having an electric boiler there, which would be using peak renewables production. So replacing gas-fired boilers. Very interesting. And then we have also ocean energy in the southern island, 4 kilometers offshore. It is 5 megawatt array, so not yet huge, but obviously we are demonstrating this technology, and we know from this project proposal that if successful, it could be deployed at a larger scale. This one, interestingly, the one about aluminium already entered into operation, so one of those front runners. The one on ocean energy is scheduled for a bit later. It still takes time to put it together. We can continue with the next slide. I believe I go already to the Innovation Fund 2023 call. So the one which is currently opened, and here actually the organizers already provided you with absolutely essential information. So now I can go a little bit more in detail. So we launched that 23rd of November. We already held our info days. The deadline for application is 9th of April, a little bit longer than last time. Last year we closed in March, so you have a little bit more time. And results are to be expected by the end of this year. So if you plan to apply, probably you are in the middle of filling in the application. It is quite a work. We do acknowledge that, to prepare an application to the Innovation Fund, and now is the time to do that, to assemble all the necessary documentation. So our call is divided into topics. So we have this large-scale projects, medium-scale projects, small-scale projects, clean tech manufacturing, pilot projects. We no longer have hydrogen topic, obviously, because we are also having the pilot auction, and hydrogen, you already saw, is quite lucky with having the grants from the Innovation Fund. So you have in this table the dedicated budgets. They are done a bit in function of what we saw in terms of interest from the past calls for proposals, and of course the size of the projects that are to come. And the grant distribution is done on the basis of the lump sum. So projects declare the relevant so-called relevant cost to us, and then up to 60% of those relevant costs can be covered by the Innovation Fund grant. Then the disbursement is dependent on project achieving the milestones. And the very first disbursement can happen around the financial close, and it can be even up to 40% of the grant value. Then the remaining amount, so at least 60%, is after financial close. And we do consider that the biggest needs for the grant will come during the construction phase. So once the project enters into operation, we only ask that at least 10% is earmarked for this phase into operation, and disbursement will be linked to achievement of the milestones, notably the construction of the installation. You have here the link to the information info day. You have the link to the funding and tendering portal, which is the source where you have full call text documentation, the methodologies for claiming the GHG abatement, the relevant cost calculation. So this is the place to start the application, and it does pay off to read fully the documentation of the call text. So altogether, all those different topics, they lead us to the budget of 4 billion. It is the biggest call under the Innovation Fund ever. We are very happy with this possibility, because those investments are needed now, so that we are on path to achieve 2030 and 2050 climate and energy goals. So this is available. Maybe here also the moment to say that the way we differentiate between small, medium, and large-scale projects, it is the capex of the project. So if the project is between 2.5 and 20 million capex, this is small-scale project. Then between 20 and 100 million, it is medium size, and then above 100. It is a large-scale project. We don't have this capex brackets for the clean tech manufacturing or pilot projects. Here it is really about the focus of the project. I can go to the next slide already, which I think is about the eligible activities. And this is the last slide, and I hand over to colleagues from CINEA. So what do we have in terms of technologies, in terms of focus for those topics? So I've already explained the brackets, so to say, in terms of capex for the small, medium, and large-scale projects. And then in terms of technologies, in fact, everything that I've been showing you on my very first slide in terms of where Innovation Fund is active, everything applies for this large, medium, and small-scale projects. So obviously energy-intensive industry, obviously power generation, decarbonizing of power generation. Fossil, of course, projects wouldn't have a place under the Innovation Fund. CCS, CCU, then of course storage technology, and then you need to know that, of course, we enlarge our eligibility, just as ETS emission trading system does get extended with the recent revision of the legislation and the level of ambition on the EU level. It gets extended to maritime sector, so we also have them, and also aviation. Here under the maritime, we can even have infrastructure, innovative infrastructure in the maritime sector, for the container transshipment ports, very, very specific, but this is a special focus for our legislation. So Innovation Fund mirrors this focus. And then, of course, the new sectors, road transport and the buildings, they are a bit of a newcomers for Innovation Fund. It might be a bit challenging, more challenging to describe for them degree of innovation, but we do hope for projects also in those sectors, and then we would be able to showcase them at the next occasion. What is, I think, the most straightforward approach is actually look at the past projects we financed under the Innovation Fund. So via the links already put on the slides, you can access them, see what kind of CCS projects we do or renewable ones, what we already have under maritime. So when you consider a project in a given sector, it is always good to see how others already got awarded, how they claim the degree of innovation. And then clean tech manufacturing, I call it our response to IRA. Obviously, we are nowhere close to the financial firepower put in the US, but here we are, and we have quite an interest. So it is renewable energy installation, it is electrolyzers and fuel cells, it is storage, it is heat pumps, and we already awarded projects like that in the last call. Gigawatt factories on PV, on batteries. Do have a look. They will play important role, those projects, and we need more of them. And pilot projects. So here it is something between traditional research. Many of you will know that this would be rather financed by Horizon Europe program on the EU level or similar programs on the national level. We are in the sweet spot between research already finished, maybe demonstrated at a small scale. Now time for the larger scale demonstration, testing that into fully operational environment before going for the full commercialization. and we did have very good projects coming to this pilot topic, notably the Irish one on the ocean energy. So we look forward to continuing on with this topic and finding even further projects. With this, maybe one more warning. This is something new in the Innovation Fund, especially if you already applied in the past. We now ask that projects that apply, they have not yet reached the start of works. So if the ground is being prepared, the trees are felled or something like that, that's all right. But if the construction started or some irreversible commitment was already made in terms of agreements signed with those who deliver the components, then we cannot really see that this EU grant was needed since those decisions were already taken. So we don't consider those projects eligible. It's a novelty in this call for proposal. So I prefer to draw your attention right now to this. And with this, I pass to Gianluca, my colleague from CINEA.
Thank you so much, Evelina. Yeah, so as Gianluca now will go ahead and just give you a quick background. Gianluca is a mechanical engineer specialized in energy matters with over 25 years experience on renewable energy sources and decarbonisation technologies. After about 10 years in the private sector, in June 2005, he joined the European Commission, where he has been involved in a number of financing programs on energy, like Intelligent Energy for Europe, Horizon 2020, focusing on renewable energy technologies, and more recently, the Innovation Fund. So he's currently head of the sector Energy Intensive Industry and CCU of the Innovation Fund unit at CINEA. And we welcome Gianluca. Thank you.
Many thanks, Aidin. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot. So good morning, everybody, also from my side. And I will start now to present with my colleague, Alexandre Cobart, that will come later. We'll present the work criteria that will be used by the external experts, by a set of external experts to assess the proposals that we receive within this call. But before going to the work criteria, I wanted I have a few slides that are related to the admissibility eligibility criteria. Sorry. Admissibility and eligibility check. This is the first step of the evaluation process. So all the proposals are checked by CINEA if proposals meet this criteria, and this is somehow is a go no go assessment. So if proposals don't meet this criteria, the evaluation is stopped and the proposals are not assessed by external experts. So this is a rather important aspect of the evaluation. We still see that several proposals fail under this admissibility eligibility criteria. So for admissibility, they are quite straightforward. So for instance, proposals should be submitted, of course, before the call deadline, only using electronic system and using forms in the submission system. Important, proposals must be complete and contain all the required information and annexes. So you should use all the forms, part A, part B, that somehow is the core of the proposal, and part C, so all the forms that you can find in the fund intended portal that has already been mentioned by Evelina. And then also you see there is a full list, there is a list of mandatory annexes, mandatory documents, and you need to attach to the application. This you can find them, the full list, in section 5 of the call text. These are, for instance, the business plan, the feasibility study, the financial information file with information on the relevant costs and some financial parameters. The greenhouse gas calculator, where you need to explain, to show, to describe the calculation of the greenhouse gas emissions savings. In terms of eligibility, participants have to be legal entities, can be established anywhere in the world, so there is no limitation from this side. However, projects must be located in the European Economic Area. This means the European Union member states plus Iceland, Norway, and Liechtenstein. Also important especially for Ireland, that projects also may be located in Northern Ireland on the condition that they concern the generation, transmission, and distribution supply electricity. So this is the only exception in terms of geographical location. In terms of duration, the project must reach financial close within 4 years after grant signature. This is somehow our requirement. If the project will reach financial close after 5 years, the proposal will not be fully assessed. And also, the proposed project should operate at least 5 years after entering operation, with the exception for small-scale projects and pilots. This requirement is at least 3 years after entering into operation. Finally, maximum grant amount must not exceed 60% of the relevant costs, and the relevant costs are calculated according to the methodology that Alexander will present later. And also, there are, of course, projects should fall in the eligible activities that Evelina already presented. This is the eligibility in terms of project budget. So the eligibility according to the different topics. Evelina already mentioned, so here just a repetition, but again, this eligibility criterion is assessed on the basis of the CapEx and the capital expenditure and not the EU grants, for instance. So here you can see the different ranges of capex that the proposed projects must meet in accordance to be eligible in order to be eligible for the different topics. And you can see that, for instance, for large scale, it should be at least over 100 million euro, medium scale between 20 and 100, small scale project between 2.5 and 20, clean tech manufacturing pilot project, they only have a lower limit that is 2.5 million euro. For the geographical location for new sectors, for you it's important, especially the one on the left, because the right side is mainly for new projects, for new activities related to Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. So it's not directly so essential for of course, for Irish companies. On the left side, for the maritime sector projects, when the project concerns investment in ships, those ships must call ports under the jurisdiction of the European Economic Area on a regular basis. This means that they should call for these ports at least for at least 30% of their annual calls. And the list of this port is reported in the call text. Then, when the project concerns investment in port infrastructure, the ports must be under, again, the jurisdiction of the European Economic Area country, and again, the list you can find in the call text. So, going back to the work criteria, there are work criteria are 5. As I mean, there is no change in comparison to previous calls. However, you will see there are some changes, mainly for replicability and cost efficiency. So these are the criteria: the green innovation, greenhouse gas emissions avoidance potential, project maturity, that is divided in 3: technical, financial, operation maturity, replicability, that has already been said, is somehow it's the old scalability criterion, and then cost efficiency. Sorry. And now we will go to describe in more detail each of these criteria. So the first one is the green innovation. Under this criterion, proposals have to demonstrate that they are innovative. So you need to demonstrate the innovation of your proposed solution. So it's a technology, it's a process, it's an innovative business model in relation to the state of the art. So in relation to the existing, so the current situation for that specific technology or process. So in part B of the proposal, in the application form, you will see there are some sections. First, you have to describe clearly the state of the art of your proposed solution, and then also of course, you need to explain why your project is innovative in comparison to this state of the art. Why you think you need to explain why your project is going beyond the state of the art. Also, the experts will like all in all criteria, I have to say, experts, external experts also will assess, of course, not only the innovation, the innovativeness of your proposed solution, but also how this has been presented in the proposal. So the quality, the soundness, and reliability of the information provided. Relevant documents for this section, for this criterion, are the application form part B, section 1, and also in the feasibility study you can mention, you can present in case is needed more details on the innovative aspects of your project. And then also any due diligence, an existing due diligence report, this is optional. So if you think, if you have it, if you consider that it could help, you can attach also this document. So the green innovation, it's here. Innovation Fund has already been mentioned by Evelina. It's the objective is to fund, to support projects that are going beyond incremental innovation on a scale from intermediate to breakthrough, including scale up. In order to assess this innovation, the geographical reference point is the European level for all topics except small scale projects. For the small scale projects topic, the geographical reference point is European or national level. This means that while in a project that is submitted under, for instance, under the large scale topic or the medium scale, the innovation should be, it's necessary to have innovation, a project that is innovative at the European level, so considering again as a reference point the whole Europe. However, for the small scale topic, it's sufficient that the project is innovative at national level. So this means that, for instance, a project that is completely new in Ireland can be considered innovative by the external expert, even if, for instance, in other country like in France or Germany, exactly the same technology is already in operation. So I mentioned incremental innovation, intermediate, breakthrough. In the call text, especially in Annex 1, you can find all the definitions of these terms. For instance, incremental innovation, we mean here minor projects that are offering only minor changes or improvements to existing products, processes, or technologies. And this implies limited new technology, new knowledge on new technology. And according to the Innovation Fund rules, such projects will not be retained. So the project will be, if experts consider that the project will deliver only incremental innovation, the project will be rejected. Intermediate or strong, here we mean projects that are delivering new or considerably changed technologies or processes or business models. This is, for instance, the novel combination of mature technologies, or also the scale up of innovative technologies. For instance, also the scale up of something is already existing, but your project considers an important scale up of this existing technology can be also considered by experts innovative. Very strong or breakthrough, these are completely new technologies or processes, and these are projects that are leading, they're delivering disruptive innovations that are will lead to completely different markets or create new different markets or industries in Europe. Has been already mentioned, this is quite important. You need to clearly reference your project to existing Innovation Fund projects. So if the solution you have in mind has already been awarded by Innovation Fund, your proposal should clearly justify where the new innovation elements are of your project lie, for instance, in terms of scale, in terms of the application of the technology, or for instance, in the higher degree innovation of some elements of your proposed solution. So, but it's important, again, you needly explain the difference of your project in comparison to existing projects. It's also possible that such projects may receive a lower score. And of course, if your project is proposing something that's already existing, is already in operation, your proposal in principle could be even rejected because it's not going beyond the state of the art. So we kindly ask you to really check the list of already funded innovation fund projects. Here there is the link on your dashboard. For the greenhouse gas emissions avoidance potential, we have 3 sub-criteria under these aspects. The first one is absolute greenhouse gas emissions avoidance. The second one is relative. I will show you later what this means. And then the last one is quality of the greenhouse gas emissions avoidance calculation and minimum requirements. The documents important for this criteria are, again, application form part B, section 2, where you need to address, let's say, the absolute and greenhouse gas emission avoidance, the calculation of the absolute and relative, and then the minimum requirements, and of course also the greenhouse gas emissions avoidance calculator. This is a greenhouse gas calculator. It's basically an Excel file that you need to fill in to demonstrate your claims in terms of greenhouse gas emissions avoidance potential. The first one is a absolute greenhouse gas emissions avoidance. This is the difference between the expected greenhouse gas emissions of the proposed project and the greenhouse gas emissions in the reference scenario during 10 years after entering into operation. The relative greenhouse gas emissions, it's the absolute value divided by the greenhouse gas emissions in the reference scenario for the same period of 10 years. The calculation must be done using the relevant greenhouse gas emissions avoidance calculator that I already mentioned, and very important, following the guidance on the greenhouse gas emissions avoidance methodology that you can find in the funding and tender portal. So it's really important you get familiar with this guidance because this is the basis for the calculation of these values. In terms of work criteria, as I said before, there are 3. The first 2 are absolute greenhouse gas emission avoidance and relative greenhouse gas emission avoidance. In this case, your proposal will receive a score that is automatically linked, is directly linked to the values claimed in the proposal. So here there is no intervention from external experts. The score under these 2 sub-criteria will be calculated directly on the basis of the values you claim in the proposal. The experts will assess the third sub-criterion, the quality of the calculation and the minimum requirements. For the quality of the calculation, the external experts will assess the credibility of your calculation. So somehow, if the calculation is credible and if it's in line with the methodology that we ask you to use for the calculation. In cases of issues with in the quality of the calculation, for instance, some parameters, some assumptions are not considered not reliable, not fully reliable, or not credible by experts, points may be reduced. And in case the calculation methodology is not correctly applied, or there are some serious mistakes done in the application of the methodology, so the score of this sub-criterion will be below the minimum threshold that you find in the call text, and the proposal will be rejected. For the same criterion, there are another important aspects are the minimum requirements. So if your proposal doesn't meet the minimum requirements, it will be automatically rejected. So what are these minimum requirements? The first one is related to the ETS benchmark. So for projects producing products with the ETS benchmarks, so basically mainly for the energy intensive industry sector. So the project process emissions of your project per unit of product must be below the EU ETS benchmark. So this is quite important. If at the end what you propose, the emissions of per unit of product are above the UTS benchmark, then the proposal doesn't meet the minimum requirement, so the proposal will be rejected. Only for project using biomass feedstock, the biomass used we needs to satisfy certain sustainability requirements. These are mentioned in the call text related to renewable energy directive and to other legislation of the European Union. Finally, and this is new, for all projects, the relative greenhouse gas emissions avoidance must be for all topics except pilot, at least 50%. So the value that I shown you before, the relative greenhouse gas emission avoidance, must have a value of at least 50%. And for the topic, only for the topic pilot, at least 75%, because here, I mean, this topic is aimed to, let's say, deep decarbonization. This is a new feature of the greenhouse gas calculation criterion. This is like Evelina mentioned, there are new aspects of maritime and aviation. So please have a look to the news, to the new, of course, you need to get familiar with the new calculators, with the new methodology. And also there is a new set of examples that you can use for reference and tutorials on how to fill these calculators. Project maturity, there are three sub-aspects, sub-criteria: technical, financial, operational. I will present technical, operational, and then Alexander will present financial maturity. Technical maturity here, basically, this is, let's say, the capacity of the project to deliver the expected output and the greenhouse gas emissions avoidance. So here, in the application form, part B, and also in the feasibility study, you need to demonstrate you clearly explain the degree of readiness of your project and the technical feasibility of the proposed solution to deliver the expected outputs and ultimately the greenhouse gas emissions avoidance, for instance, in terms of volume of certain product or performance of a certain process and so on. So you had to address a number of questions here. And then secondly, you need to identify and describe the technological risk that can hamper the successful technological functioning of your proposed solution. So you need to identify the risks and also to identify and to describe the mitigation measures you propose to mitigate this risk. Project maturity, there are 5 aspects to be considered under this criterion, sub-criterion. The first one is the project implementation plan. So somehow the work plan that you propose to successfully implement the project, including timing, milestones, and so on. The second one is related to the say, the capacity of the project management team. If the project management team has sufficient skills and capabilities and competencies to carry out the project and also soundness of the project organization. The third aspect is on the state of play and the credibility of the plan for obtaining all the required permits, for instance, environmental permits, or also IPR rights or licenses in order to implement the project. The fourth one is the soundness of the strategy for ensuring public acceptance. So here somehow you need to clearly explain how public acceptance will be ensured during the realization of the project. And finally, the last one is on the implementation risk. So here, similarly to technical risk, you need to identify all the risks that could be relevant, for instance, during the construction phase of the project, risk related to the dependency on other existing projects, and so on. So you need to clearly identify this risk and also propose credible risk mitigation measures. These are some recommendations on the project maturity that we have seen based on the past calls. So define a clear project timeline, identify technical, financial, operational risk. You can use the feasibility study also to propose some heat maps, so in order to better describe these risks, and also provide contractual evidence, and but this Alexandre will present later. For the replicability, here again, this is new, but is somehow it reminds the older scalability criterion used in the past calls, and somehow here you need to explain the capacity of your project to be replicated after the Innovation Fund project. So its growth potential, and also important, the possible contribution of your project to the, let's say, to the capacity, to strengthening, to reinforcing the capacity of the European Union industrial and energy system. So here you have to demonstrate replicability in terms of efficiency gains, in terms of cost reduction, in terms of how to address resource constraints, the replicability, the potential replicability of your project in terms of transfer to your proposed solution at regional level, national level, or to European level, for instance. Then resilience of your industrial system. So describe the expected contribution of your project to a sustainable supply of net zero supply technologies, again, to improve the resilience of European systems. Then fourth one, potential in terms of multiple environmental impacts. So these are other impacts like biodiversity protection, land, air, and water pollution. And finally, the quality and extent of the knowledge sharing, communication, and dissemination activities. And here you can see application form again. You need to fill in part B for the replicability, 4.1 and 4.2, and also for all the topics except small scale topic, you also need to attach a knowledge sharing plan. These are some lessons learned for replicability. I will go quick because I see that I'm ready quite late in terms of timing. But important recommendation for this one is that you need to provide credible assumptions on all these aspects, not generic description, not generic contribution, but really specific to your project, to your proposed solution, and you need to underpin your claims with evidence and calculation. So avoid the generic and not substantiated claims, for instance, related to your policy objectives and initiatives. Last slide. Besides the work criteria, proposal can achieve additional points if they address certain aspects that are mentioned in the cool text. The first one is the potential of your project to deliver net carbon removal. So in this case, this is when your project is able to deliver negative, let's say, greenhouse gas emissions savings. In this case, your project, if considered, of course, credible by external aspects, can receive additional points. Similarly, other greenhouse gas savings from emission sources that go beyond the boundaries of the Innovation Fund methodology. In the Innovation Fund methodology, calculation for the greenhouse gas, some emissions are not considered. Here you have the occasion, if they're important, of course they are significant, to claim these additional savings in this section, and then these, if they are considered credible by experts, can receive additional points. The third one is the commitment of the project to use electricity from additional renewable sources. So in case, for instance, the project needs significant electricity in order to be operated, and if you demonstrate that this comes from additional renewable sources, this can also receive additional points. Similarly, when the project needs can use renewable hydrogen. The last one, only for maritime sector projects, they demonstrate the potential of your project to decarbonize this specific sector and also to reduce its climate impacts. This was my last slide. I'm sorry because I was quite long, but yeah, I pass now the floor to my colleague, Alexandre.
I'll just put that, Gianluca, thank you so much. That was really helpful. So no problem at all running over. I see it generated questions entering Slido, which we will get to after the final presentation. And that presentation, as you said, has come from Alexander, and you'll have to forgive my pronunciation, Corbell, maybe. So Alexander has been a member of SENEA's financial engineering team since December 2020, working on the Innovation Fund since the first call. Prior to this, he worked at ING Bank, first in capital structuring and advisory, and as from 2016 in the structured finance team, both in Brussels and Singapore, advising and financing projects within the energy sector, primarily mid and downstream energy and infrastructure assets, offshore energy and renewable energy. Prior to that, Alexander worked in the equity capital markets teams of Deutsche Bank and the Royal Bank of Scotland, based in London, and did a 2-year stint at UK government investments. He holds a Master of Economics from the London School of Economics, and I welcome him now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and also thank you to the participant for your interest in the Innovation Fund. My intention now is to present very briefly 2 criteria of the Innovation Fund, the financial maturity and cost efficiency, to give you an overview and also some of the lessons learned from past experience. So I will start with financial maturity, and here just maybe to first start with the objective. The objective of the evaluation is to assess the ability of your project to reach financial close, and the financial close needs to be achieved at the latest 4 years after the signature of the grant. And I would say that the evaluators, external evaluators, so will assess your proposal. We look at 4 aspects on the financial maturity. First, your business plan, and so your financial projections and profitability of your project. Secondly, your financing plan. Thirdly, the commitment of the project funders and the steps to reach financial close. And finally, the risks, the business and financial risk of your project, and how the measures you will take to effectively mitigate those risks. I would say that financial maturity is a criterion to pay attention, that you should pay attention to that, because it's one of the most discriminative criterion we've seen based on past evaluation. So I will try my best to help you, give you an overview. And if you can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. And so here, basically, based on our experience, we've listed what we call the 7 golden rules, and this is to help you smooth sailing to navigate this criterion. The first important aspect is the commitment of the project funders, and here what we really expect is that you describe the progress you have made in the negotiation with the different parties. By stating the amount of funding from each party, indicating as much as possible potential terms and conditions, the steps to internal approvals. All of that will help you to support the credibility of your plan. Also provide letters of intent, MOUs that would confirm the details of your assumptions. So letters of support, for example, from shareholders signed at the executive level. These are important elements, and especially if your project is unprofitable, or if you expect so your project to be exposed to high fluctuations in cash flows. In that case, it is expected that there will be a strong commitment from the shareholders that they are standing behind and that they are willing to fund in spite of this low profitability. The second important point is the business plan. So you will be asked to develop a clear business plan, outline the assumptions that you take for each of the revenues, operating costs, so OPEX, and investments, so CAPEX. Provide a detailed breakdown of each of your assumptions and also evidence in the form of quotes or letter of intent. This is important, and also bear in mind that again, your proposal will be evaluated by external evaluators. Therefore, it's important to take them by the hand and really clearly explain all of the assumptions that you have made. Thirdly, on the financing plan, there it is important to identify the different funding sources and to kind of justify that your business plan is fully funded. And that you also potentially cover negative cash flows you could have during the operational period. Provide as much evidence as possible regarding the terms that you assume if you are planning to raise debt, and make sure that these assumptions are realistic and potentially supported by discussions you have had with banks or other debt investors. So that's also another point. And then the next point on the weighted average cost of capital, which is the project WACC. That is the discount rate that is used for the calculation of relevant cost, and it's also one parameter to assess the profitability of your project. So there, what we ask is a project WACC. So it's not the WACC of the corporate institution behind your project. So please clearly follow the guidance that you provide in the relevant cost methodology on how to calculate this WACC. So we are expecting that this reflects the cost of debt and cost of equity and the parameters of the project that you would like to fund. The next point is about consistency, to really make sure that the information provided in all the documents is consistent. Because if there are elements are not aligned, this may undermine the quality of your proposal in the light of the evaluators. Next one is on the risks. And there it is important to identify the main risk, but also to provide effective mitigation measures. If some of these risks are not really, I mean, they will be difficult to mitigate, then we would expect that potentially the shareholders behind would provide funding to cover these risks. So that is also important. And also we request that you provide a sensitivity analysis. In this way, this would help to justify the risk that you see in your project that would have the most impact on your business plan. And so that to focus on the ones that have the most impact in your proposal. And finally, again, to stress that for in terms of all the contracts of your project, of the financing parties, to provide as much evidence as possible based on your ongoing negotiation with each of the parties. So LOIs, letter of intent, so memorandum of understanding, all of that will help to add credibility to your project. And it's not just the title, but it's the content. So the evaluators will really look at what is written in those documents. So it's important if you have a lot of information or concrete terms to describe, please provide this evidence. This can be a plus for your application. Next slide. On this slide, I just wanted to highlight some of the lessons we learned from the previous call, and this is data based on the large scale call 22. And what's out of all the projects evaluated under project maturity, what we see is that 44% failed this criterion. So project maturity, again, it's incorporating technical, financial, and operational maturity. But you see, it's quite a high number. Just note that we have a cascade approach in the evaluation. So these are not all the projects that applied, because we do not assess on a project maturity projects which fail the admissibility and eligibility criteria, and also those that fail degree of innovation. But out of those that were evaluated on a project maturity, 44 failed on the project maturity, and 25% fail only financial maturity, which again highlights that this is a criterion you should pay attention to. Next slide. On this slide, we wanted to highlight, based on the previous call, what were the main reasons for failure on the financial maturity. And from the pie chart, I just highlight the main ones, but the first one is really the business plan, and to stress that this is really crucial, because to provide clear assumptions and really explain and support all the revenues and cost you have projected is really an important part. And also because business plan is a bit the foundation of your financing plan as well, because if it is not credible, it will spill over, and probably potentially financiers will not be willing to finance a business plan that is not credible. The other part is about, as I indicated, if your project has a low profitability, in that case, I mean, from experience, it can be expected that shareholders will not be, these are not the projects that will be funded by shareholders. So there may be a strong justification why they would still like to finance this project, because it may be a step as part of a bigger picture of really a clear objective of the corporate. But it is very important that if there is low profitability, that there is strong evidence from the shareholders that are willing to finance and mention explicitly in spite of this low profitability. This is also the case for pilot projects, which may not be profitable because their intention is to test some aspects for future scale up. So in that case, again, strong commitment, evidence of that is important. And finally, the financing plan, to make sure there are no gaps, identify all the funding sources. And also, if you intend to raise debt, as I indicated, make sure that the assumptions are in line with the market standards, and that you can cross-check them with bank institutions or debt investors. We can now move to the next criterion on cost efficiency. So this one, just to say, this is more based on an automatic calculation. The cost efficiency is defined as follows. It is in the numerator, the grant amount that you request, divided by the absolute greenhouse gas emission avoidance over the first 10 years of operation. And basically, just to say that the requested grant amount, the maximum amount can only be 60% of the relevant cost that you calculate. However, you may decide to request a lower amount, and this would improve the score under cost efficiency. The second remark I want to make is that if you expect other public funding sources, and that will fund part of the development, construction, or operation during the first 10 years after the entry into operation, in that case, this public funding would have to be added to the numerator. And this will be this addition will be automatically made when filling the template, so the financial information file, and also this amount will not be discounted, and so this will impact the cost efficiency ratio. So these are two important elements to bear in mind. Next slide. Here, I wanted to show basically the formula that will be used. So cost efficiency is split into two sub-criterion. One is the automatic calculation. So based on the cost efficiency ratio that you get automatically a score according to the formula highlighted on this slide. And for the second part, it's based on the quality of the calculation. If there are any elements which are not correct in the calculation, this will be assessed under that. If we look at maybe to stress that we have introduced a change under this criterion, and that is we have introduced a minimum requirement for projects. So and basically the bar has been set at 200 euro per ton of CO2 equivalent avoided. So if the project has an amount that is higher than that, the project will then be rejected. So this is really a minimum requirement in the sense that you cannot be above this 200 euro per ton of CO2. The other, I must also say that there is an exception, and that's for the pilot project. In that case, as you can see, the cost efficiency ratio, the requirement is much more lenient because it is set at 2,000 euro per ton. And in that case, if the project is above the 2,000 euro per ton, there will be a score of 0 under this criterion, but the proposal will not be rejected. So it's not subject to this minimum requirement. We can move to the next slide. So, I mean, the main reasons for failure in cost efficiency are linked to the relevant cost calculation, because the relevant cost is what will determine the grant amount, which is used in the formula in the cost efficiency to calculate the cost efficiency ratio. And there I will just mention, I mean, just highlight here that we encourage you to really strictly follow the instructions we have made in the relevant cost guidance. In particular, pay attention to calculation of the WACC, the project WACC. Pay attention to the costs. Do not include financing costs because they are not eligible under the relevant cost calculation. And also, we have now made a few simplifications. So you need to, you are asked to use some specific imposed values that are provided in the relevant cost methodology guidance. So we hope with these simplifications, we will also prevent errors around the calculation. But again, please follow the guidance carefully. And then we can move to the next slide. So here it's about the relevant cost. My intention was not to go too much into detail, but just to highlight what has changed compared to the previous calls. I think that the first element is that we now use the same methodologies across all the topics. In the past, we had a separation between large-scale coal and small-scale coal, and the relevant cost was different because for the small-scale coal, it was basically equal to relevant cost was equal to capex. Now, in this case, all the projects will use the same methodologies, which I will highlight later on. So also for the small scale project, they will follow the same approach as for the other topics. The other important point is that we've streamlined the methodologies. We've reduced from the 3 methodologies we had in the past to 2. So we no longer use the levelized cost methodology. And finally, I highlighted before, but for the WACC calculation, we also proposed default values for the beta and for the equity risk premium. So this is again to help and to make sure that applicants are treated on an equal way, and also to prevent and as much as possible mistakes in this calculation. And then we can move to the next slide. And here I just give a very high-level overview of the 2 methodologies for the relevant cost calculation. The default is to use the no reference plan. This is the methodology recommended for all projects. And basically the relevant cost calculation is the following. It's the capex of your project, plus the present value of your operating cost, the OPEX, and then you deduct the present value of the revenues and the present value of operational benefits. And the calculation is made only over the first 10 years after entry into operation. So that's the calculation of relevant costs. It's automatically done when filling the financial information file template. Now, there are certain cases, but under very strict conditions that are listed here, where you could use the reference plan. And the calculation in that case will be that on top of the no reference plan relevant cost, you would also deduct the net present value of a similar project that is using a conventional technology. And the idea is that if investing in a conventional technology can generate some good returns, in that case, this you will be in a way compensated and be able to have a higher relevant cost. However, it is important to really understand the conditions for using this methodology, and I would just quickly cover them. That first, the project needs to relate to the construction of a completely new plant. So if your project is about adding a system in an existing installation, then you must absolutely use the no reference plan. Now, the reference plan also needs to have the same size and capacity as the project. Thirdly, it needs to comply with the European Union environmental standards and EU legislation. And fourth, we require that you provide documents that are necessary to establish the credibility of all the financial and technical data, such as proof that this reference plan you are planning this reference plan as an alternative to the project, to the innovative project, that you have formal board documents, financial reports, and internal business plan or studies, and provide a complete set of verifiable financial projections. So this gives you a brief overview of the two relevant cost methodologies. And then we can move to the next slide. Okay, no, then I would just conclude by saying that you can find a lot of information on our website. And also we provided tutorials that you can follow online on how to fill, for example, the financial information file template. So please consult this website. You also have the info day recordings, because that could give you a lot of information on how to complete your application. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very informative and helpful. And for everyone else, I would, as you mentioned, Alexander, I'd really recommend those tutorials that are available on the website when you are filling out your application. I'd like to thank all members of the expert panel there. Really insightful, and it certainly got the chat going. And with that, we'll move to the Q&A. I'll just get up the first question here. Does Ireland also provide support for the additional 40%? So I'll go ahead and answer that one. Unfortunately, I don't have partial capital money earmarked for the Innovation Fund to provide the additional 40%. But as the NCP, we can put you in touch with other agencies that may help. We've got a colleague from Enterprise Ireland who works with us on the Innovation Fund, so we can set up those sort of meetings to provide other sources of funding. We also have semi-state bodies that take part in sort of these calls as well. So we can sort of put you in touch with potential funding streams, as well as sort of funding. I just have to say, like, the department will provide letters of support. What funding we have available, we've used it, for example, this year, for anyone who is applying this year or next and has a mature project. We're offering consultation slots with Deloitte, who will go through your application with you and sort of pinpoint any areas. So certainly do get in touch, but unfortunately, my team does not have the funds to provide the additional 40%, but that can be sourced from other areas. I'll move on to the next question. Our partners, oh, it's gone, sorry. So when you folks,
sorry, just well, first to think that we still had in our presentation the auctions, but we understand that the biggest interest is in the grants. So let's indeed cut off here, and if among those present there are people who came for auctions, well, you have the slides, and then we can of course refer you to the recording from the info day. If I can chip into your answer on, you know, this remaining
go ahead.
40%, basically it is on a project to combine, you know, two sources of public funding, so the Innovation Fund grant and something else. It can be national funding. It can be also funding from a different EU program. It wouldn't be uncommon to think about combining Horizon Europe, for example, and the Innovation Fund. I would only say that when you do that as a project, you have to be mindful of the rules. So no double funding for the EU funding, and for the national support. If you are combining with the state aid, there are also the state aid rules on the accumulation. So the moment you start to talk to the national authority, which is to provide you with the national funding, you also have to inquire them about those rules so that you are in compliance. It doesn't necessarily have to be the NECP, but there is a number of funding instruments that you could consider, but the effort is really on the project.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, and we have colleagues as well who work with state aid. So any issues or questions regarding state aid as well, we can point you in the right direction and get those questions answered. Moving on to the next question. Let's see. What is the difference between energy storage technologies funded under the general topic and energy storage solutions funded under manufacturing?
I am happy to take this one. Should be relatively straightforward, because when you go to the large scale topic, it is about the deployment of storage. So you have industrial installation. As a part of that, you need a huge amounts of storage. You deploy it once in your installation. Whereas the manufacturing topic is about producing the storage solution, so batteries or something else, and then selling that on the market, and you don't worry, so to say, you know, how they will be used. So it's really difference between deployment and using the solutions and manufacturing the storage solutions. And the same applies if we talk about renewables, electrolyzers, and so on. And I can already tackle the next question. It's exactly this kind of things. Enterprise Island, I think it is about Enterprise Island Network, which is the EU level initiative, if I'm not mistaken. It's exactly this kind of cumulation, that one project would apply to Innovation Fund at the same time as to this Enterprise Island, or it could be even sequentially, first to, you know, one source of funding and then to the second. So this is exactly this kind of filling in the remaining 40% that we had in mind.
Thank you so much. Yes, and as I said, we have partners in Enterprise Ireland, so please get in touch and we can make those connections if you don't have them already.
I can take next one if you want.
Yep, go ahead.
So are partners from Northern Ireland or UK be eligible? Yes, they are, because as I said before in my presentation, partners, companies, entities from any country in the world can participate in Innovation Fund. The only condition is that the project should be implemented in European Union or Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. But it is possible that also beneficiaries from UK or not are present in the consortium. And maybe there was linked a little bit.
Yes, to James's question there about the projects being situated in Northern Ireland.
Yes, so this one, as I said also during the presentation, the only exception if that project situated in Northern Ireland can be eligible. However, on the condition that this project concerns the production and the generation and the distribution of electricity. Now, in the question, I've seen that they have a small scale project that is not generating electricity. So, but is a pilot. So what do we do with this case? But the first question I would do, if they don't generate electricity, I mean, in the project they will not deliver any greenhouse gas savings. So I don't know if makes a lot of sense in terms of Innovation Fund. So if it's really more research and demonstration, maybe it's more suitable for for Horizon Europe programs, because again, I mean, the call text is quite clear. I mean, okay, exceptions are possible for Northern Ireland, but the project should concern, in any case, the production of electricity. I don't know if it was clear on this.
Perfect. In relation to relevant costs for a brand new to market project with no reference in the market, can you use the price for the closest substitute?
Okay, this is one I will pick up. I think with the change in methodologies and the fact that we no longer use the levelized cost, this is not a concern anymore. So you don't have to determine this price. In the financial information file template, we still have a line for that. So this has no impact on your relevant costs. So when you use for the no reference plans, you basically assume the revenues of your project based on the price of your product that you are going to produce, your innovative products, and you need to justify that price. But this is not a component anymore of the calculation. But it's important also, and I think we have a line in the financial information file that you provide a price of the product that would be the conventional product in the market. In order, it's a bit to help applicants so that you can also be reminded to justify if you have any premium compared to the alternative in the market, and that you provide evidence that customers are willing to pay, if there is a premium, to pay this extra price for the innovative product.
Perfect, thank you so much. Look at Deirdre's question there. In the case of the two Irish projects referred to, is it possible to know the types of co-funding sources provided the other 40% of funding for the projects?
Maybe we can take it jointly with Alexandre, but we already discussed the public funding. Of course, it could be also the own investors' own contribution. So in a way, relevant cost, it shows the costs which are not covered by the revenues from the market. So obviously, project cannot operate at a loss, not for a period of time. So either there is a contribution from the public funding or from the private investors. Alexandre, I don't know if you'd like to add something.
Maybe to add, in your financing plan, you are asked to provide all the funding sources and to make sure that these funding sources are sufficient to fully finance your business plan. So yeah, if there is, I mean, you need to insert all the sources that you expect to receive and provide evidence that at the end of the day you will receive them. So as much information, credible information, to kind of convince the evaluators that this funding will be available. So it's up to you to design your financing plan, to identify what is possible, and to engage with different parties to see how your project can be funded. But then it's also important to provide evidence that you have progressed in your negotiation process, and that you know about the terms, potential terms of this funding, the timing, and provide as much evidence as possible regarding that.
Thanks so much. And just to add to that, I see a comment in from Deloitte. So as I mentioned earlier, Deloitte are running one-to-one sessions with us. And if you'd be interested in partaking in that, please contact the Innovation Fund. But they've just put a comment in here. If anyone wishes to discuss potential private funding options as part of the one-to-one with Deloitte, they can facilitate an introduction to their financial advisory team also. And I'll just look for the next question. Here we go. Are substitutes of organic compounds derived from oil refining processes in scope, i.e. byproducts of heating, distilling petroleum, including paraffin?
Okay, yeah, based on this, seems that are in scope. I have to say, we have projects where the objective is to find a substitution for material substances used in the oil refining processes. So of course it's difficult to say based on this, but in principle, yes. And we maybe the sectors chemicals or refineries are the most indicated for this kind of project. So in summary, yes, seems okay. If you have more specific question, maybe you can also use the help desk, and then we try to I mean, if you have more precise indication, we can also have a more precise reply.
Thank you so much. Next question. Can you get help or get your calculations checked before submitting your proposal so it is not rejected?
You mean for the greenhouse gas calculation, I guess.
I
Even if it could be
assume
also
so,
the
yeah.
cost. For the greenhouse gas calculation, we cannot check the full, I mean, calculation. This is, we are not CINEA or Commission, we are not a consultancy service. So it's what we can do. We have a help desk, and if there are questions, if there are difficulties in the interpretation of the methodology, of the greenhouse gas methodology, for instance, something is not clear, we can, yes, I mean, potential applicants can use the help desk, can insert the question in the help desk, and then we will reply. Of course, also the question must be specific. Again, we cannot give, I mean, an interpretation, an opinion of the whole calculation again.
Perfect. Yeah, and on the back of that, it was an anonymous question, but if someone is planning to submit a project for this call, you know, please contact us at the NCP, and maybe one of those one-to-ones with Deloitte would really benefit your projects, where they can sort of help with those calculations and any specific questions you may have on it. I'll move on to the next question now. So when submitting pilot project with minimal revenue streams and hence grants required, what should be displayed in the financial model? The model will not look healthy.
Yeah, I can answer that one. So indeed, in this call, we have a topic for pilot projects. So with that, we understand these are projects that need to test certain aspects before they can be fully commercialized at a larger scale. So we fully understand this is the definition of a pilot project. So we ask applicants to provide a business plan and financing plan, and to provide as much information to justify the revenues and costs they've assumed for that. However, we do not expect that every pilot projects will look healthy, from the sense that they will have a high level of profit or very high net present value. It is understood that if you are testing, you are not producing at the capacity required to achieve this level of profitability. So this is fully understood, but nevertheless, it's in that case, as I indicated in my presentation, it is very important to ensure that the shareholders behind these pilot projects are ready and committed to finance the project, even though it may not have a very high profitability level.
Thank you so much. And seems to be our last question. There appear to be any in the chat, but feel free to put in the chat if you have anything else. If a project includes carbon capture, does it also have to demonstrate a storage option for net negative emission? No, there is no CO2 storage in Ireland.
Okay, yes, question is clear. So maybe first a bit of reassurance, you don't need to store in Ireland. You can store in a different country. We already have projects which will capture CO2 and then transport it by ship somewhere else. So that's one. Now, storage places these days are rare. So indeed, you will have to demonstrate in the project application that you have a plan for the storage. And if one plan doesn't work out, what is your plan B? Because it can be quite a bottleneck for the project, especially if you talk about large quantities. I think it also depends on the size of the project. But we already see the discussions in the more like policy discussions about the storage, about the shortage of the storage places. So we would like it properly reflected in the application, not just we will figure out a solution in a due time.
Perfect, thank you. We just got another question in there. Is there a FID or build out time frame that must be met for the pilot project? And what happens if there are permission difficulties?
I can answer that one. So for your project, you need to determine a expected date for financial close. So you need to basically build up a plan and really highlight the different steps you are going to take, and you expect to meet the deadline that you set for financial close. FID, final investment decision, is one important step in that process. And so it's up to you to define that time frame. The limitation is that you may only reach financial close no later than 4 years after the signature of the grant. Also, if your project is in the manufacturing sector, as mentioned in the call, you may earn higher points the sooner you reach financial close. So depending on the target date that you have set. So, but then, yeah, if in your application you need to provide as much information as possible about the permits, and so highlight the different steps you need to take to obtain these permits, and convince evaluators that you can credibly reach the timeline that you set for your project.
Perfect, thank you so much. I don't see any other questions, so I'd just like to thank our European colleagues there. Very informative and very helpful, and thank you for your time this morning on presenting those. Thank you to everyone who joined. Oh, sorry, I see a question came in on the chat, is it? From Grania, what is the timing of funding from grant approval?
Sorry, what is the timing? Because I don't see
Of
it.
funding from grant approval. So as I assume Grania means when the grant is approved, how long before sort of drawdown of funding generally? So
after the submission of the proposal will be the evaluation, the grant agreement preparation, and then this is the timeline is 11 months. So we expect to sign all the contracts in 11 months, and then there is no pre-financing in the Innovation Fund. So actually the actual funding of the project then depends, if the project is successful, of course, on when they reach the first milestone, that in principle is the financial close. So if the project demonstrated the achievement of the financial close, and they will receive the first part of the EU grant, as Evelina showed in the beginning, on the basis, of course, of the claims by the applicant.
Perfect, thank you.
So it depends really, the timing depends really on what,
Yeah, thanks, Gianluca. So yeah, thank you all again. Thank you everyone who came and participated in the Slido. I see from the poll, there was a clear winner that when we have this Innovation Fund Information Day in person next year, Athlone for the location. So we hope to welcome our colleagues over to the Midlands. So thank you all, and as I said, if you've any questions, please feel free to contact us at the national contact points. There's also the help desk available on the Innovation Fund website, and both this recording and the slides will be made available, and there's also the Information Day recording that was back in November, which is very informative, and I'd recommend anyone who is applying to certainly check out those recordings. So once again, thank you so much, and have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
See you later. Thank you.